Have a little bit of fun. We are going to test a arrow setup, high FOC heavyweight arrow, at least for the youth bow that I'm shooting. I'm shooting a roughly 40-pound Mathews stoke with a 500 grain arrow and 30% FOC. That is with the Valkyrie centerpin system. See if we can get the broadhead in view here. So here we go. It's the Valkyrie centerpin system. It's a 200, you can see a little dirt on there from hunting. Anyway, 250 grain head, 75 grain outsert. That's where the high FOC comes from. It's about a 25-inch arrow. I'm shooting a 22.5-inch draw on the Mathews stoke, and I want to see if this thing will punch through that elk. It's a cow elk leg. I'm going to try to punch right through that joint, that knuckle, which is probably the hardest place to go through. So hopefully my shooting's good enough. I'm going to shoot from 10 yards and see what this thing will do. Alright, let's see here. Well, it did not penetrate completely, as you can see. Hopefully I got this in the view. But looks like it buried the broadhead, but stuck there in the joint. Was able to pull it out fairly easily. So anyway, you can kind of see there it was poking through the backside just slightly. Maybe we'll have to try it on a smaller part of the bone and see what happens. Alright, here we go with take two. We're going to go for a little bit thinner part of the bone and see what happens. Alright, here we go. So, hopefully you can see that. Smacked the center of the bone, perfect. Did not break through. It was about, I don't know, 3/4. I don't know if you can see that, but it's barely poking through, just like on the knuckle. So did not break through that bone. I thought it would be doing a little bit better than that. So we had that glancing blow, and as you saw there, it ricocheted and went to the target. So I think that's a really good test, actually, for the centerpin system. You can see it's a 500 spine VAP, and the centerpin system. This arrow, I believe, looks pretty much perfect. So the arrow itself, the broadhead's straight, spins good. I don't see any damage on any of the blades. So it looks like the broadhead survived well, the arrow survived well, especially with that side impact. Nothing wrong with the arrow at all. I have a hard time getting it in the right spot for focus here, but the arrow looks perfect. I did break the knock. So the knock popped, and that's pretty much it. And as you can see, I missed, or I just ticked it again. I'm just not a good enough shot here. So, let's see what it did. Wipe the foam off. Looks good. Looks like the glue still stayed in place. Arrow's in good shape. The knock came out a little bit, but it's still good. Yeah, it looks pretty straight. So look, it survived, but it just ticked, glanced off. So that would probably have killed the animal because the arrow stayed intact, which is the critical part, right? Let's get this head in here. So the head itself is performing well. Now if the shooter could perform that well. Well, I'm getting good at that glancing blow. I guess I might need to sight back in over to the right a little. So let's take a look here. Still intact, glues has stayed in place, broadhead straight. Knot came out just a little bit again, but still good. Arrow looks good everywhere else. Alright, try it again. Alright, so there, interesting, I hit it fairly square. Oh man, let's see, so I'm gonna see what kind of penetration we got in this foam. So, we've got about, well, probably better if I put it here. So it looks like about 8 inches of penetration into the foam, so that certainly would have penetrated a elk cavity, because that foam stops an arrow better than a soft tissue on an elk after you punch through the hide and everything. So that actually pretty good. I like what it did there. Let's take a look here, show you the results. So there's the head. Still looks straight to me as far as I can tell. Glue held up on the insert. It's a Gorilla white glue. Popped the knock, broke the knock just like I almost always do. But other than that, the arrow looks great. It's a VAP 500 with a 250 grain head, 75 grain insert, 500 grain total. Let's look at the, I'm going to feel the edge here. Still relatively sharp, but I've shot it through or edged that bone 3 times now. I put that yag wax on it every time. But it is losing a little bit of its edge. I probably need to resharpen it. I'm going to go for another chunk of the bone that's fresh. Hopefully I can drill that thing. I'm going to go for the fairly meaty part right. I guess that's right below. In this picture it's above, but it's because the bone's upside down, but it would be below that knuckle there. Likely spot to get hit. Well, I didn't hit it exactly where I wanted. I hit it in kind of the thin part of the bone, but it obviously shattered it. Didn't get fantastic penetration after that, but a little bit. I was hoping to hit it more square, like right there, but I hit it along the side. So, I'll have to try that again. But it looks like everything held up well. The knock. There's the blade. It's got the yag wax on it if you're wondering what the goo is. And a little dirt and meat. But it looks straight. Still held up. We'll try it again. Alright, well, I hit like the hardest spot in the whole bone. I was not trying to aim that low, but I did. So, we did not get very good penetration there. Smacked the knuckle, it broke the knuckle, but did not get as much penetration as I would like. The broadhead is a little bit dull now. You can see we broke the shaft up the shaft quite a ways. The front part and the broadhead itself, broadhead's in really good shape, and the outsert and contact there looks perfect. So after the last test with a 500 grain arrow, I decided I better try a 600 grain arrow. So I added 100 grains point weight to this arrow. The arrow's probably a little bit underspined, but not terrible, but a little bit. And we've got a couple different heads I'm hoping to be able to test. Hopefully the bone lasts long enough we can get good tests on it. Wow, that was really interesting. I'm going to have to get the camera up close so you can see here. So, we actually dead centered the bone right in the middle, a little lower than I wanted to hit. I think I forgot which pin to use. But dead centered it and blew right through it. Did not get a ton of penetration after that. So obviously that slowed it down, but I think that's the best blow through I've seen for sure with that. Let me show you what I'm shooting. So we have bishop, or not, sorry, not bishop, a tough head. So let me wipe the foam off there. We can take a look. Tough head, it's with the Valkyrie centerpin system. It's right at a 350 grain head. You can see I did get a little bit of chatter there on the front end of that. So look at toward the point, there's a little bit of chatter on the blade. So obviously it's doing its work in splitting that bone. So I do not know the velocity of this. I'll try to figure out what the velocity is, and I'll add that to an appendix here on the video. But other than that, the arrow looks good. The insert looks good. The glue held, and the knock stayed in. The arrow, everything is in good shape. But it did deflect after it went through. You can tell it kind of deflected it a little bit. Did not get super great penetration after that, which this is only a 40-pound bow, so I can understand that. And this is a leg bone of an elk. So I don't know, I like what I see there. Experiment. Unfortunately my broadhead's no longer sharp, but I'm going to try smacking right through that knuckle and see what happens. Well, it looks like we didn't quite hit where I wanted. We kind of snuck through the edge. Let me try that again. And I'm going to show you what happened here. We Actually split the carbon on where the knock is. I've seen a couple of those now, so interesting how that happens. Alright, so I think the dull blade really stopped us on that one. So you can see it went in a little ways. Looks like everything's good except the knock. I'll have to double check that, but boy, it's stuck in there good. I'll have to hit pause and come back here. Okay, took a little work, but I got the blade out. It looks about the same as when I shot at the previous shot, where most of that chatter is from the previous shot. I think that's probably why I didn't penetrate a little bit better on that knuckle, is all that chatter on there I'm sure was adding a lot of friction. I also forgot to put the wax on it before I shot it. That was my bad. But I think I'm going to try a big Valkyrie next. Well, I forgot to hit the record button. So I shot 600 grain arrow with a Valkyrie 350. So this is about 425 grains up front. But I missed, I just took the edge of the bone. So the broken piece down there, that's from where I broke it earlier. I was trying to hit it right below it, which I did, but just not centered enough for it to grab. So that, anyway, the broadhead survived well, the arrow survived well. It kind of went in, you know, it cracked it off to the side and put a lot of side torque on it. It survived well. The one blade's a little bit dull now, the other two are great. And you can see it's still straight. Alright, we're running out of bones here. I got a pretty solid piece on this bone. That bone's upside down, but toward the top of the video here, I'm going to try to hit it up there, close to that knuckle where it's thick. Alright, now pretty decent shot. Actually, I hit pretty close to where I wanted. Did not quite split it like I was hoping. This is interesting, very interesting test for me. Let's take a look. So you can see I didn't hit it, you know, in a perfect spot because there's actually a lot of, I don't know, tendon there, but it didn't really split the bone. It, well, I guess it's not a lot of bone there, to be honest with you. It's pretty loose. That's just mostly hit tendon. It's very soft tissue. That is interesting. We might have to try that again. See if I can hit actual bone. I just barely sliced through the edge of the bone. I did just notice something else as I was looking at this arrow. So if we look right at the tip, hopefully it'll focus. If I can get this. You can see it bent the tip. A little bit hard to tell without being in focus, but right on the end of the tip it bent it. I'm going to try this again. I went and resharpened that 350 grain Valkyrie. It's all sharp, the point's straight, and we're going to try it again. Alright, I shot straight that time, so we obviously hit the limit of what that Valkyrie head will do in terms of splitting bone. And I think that smaller head, the 250 grain head, probably even penetrated a little bit better than that. It was different bone, so it's hard to say for sure. Let's see what happened here. So look at the arrow. Split the knock area out again. That seems to be a common occurrence. So that's an interesting note, I guess. get that focused. So knock, pop, split that. Let's take a look at the head. And you can still see the bone chatter there. Clean all that off so we can see how straight it is. I can see the focus is not great here, sorry. You can see the glue held up, the insert held up, all good there. This is a VAP 500. And let's do a little spinning. Looks pretty straight to me. So that time held up well when it centered that bone, but did not get the penetration we wanted. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into the penetration. So I know Brent at Valkyrie believes that his 250 grain head penetrates better than his 350 because of the width of the blades. You know, you get less friction. So even with the lighter arrow, even though it's 100 grains lighter, he believes he gets better penetration, and I would say I probably agree with that. I wish I had more bones to test, because I only, sample of one is not good. A sample of one can be worse than not doing any tests at all. But my sample of one with the single bevel showed it cracked the bone and went through. It did not go through the heavy knuckle, just like these didn't, but it did split that bone first try. And the Valkyrie 250 did split the bone very similar one time. So it's, they're probably not a lot different in my opinion, but without 10s or 20 samples, it's a little bit hard to say. Hope you enjoyed this.